The tape's running. This is the City Council Finance Subcommittee meeting of May 14th, 6 p.m. First item of business tonight, I'd like to approve the minutes of April 23rd.
So moved.
There's a motion, and I'll second it for the minutes of April 23rd. All in favor?
Aye.
And one abstention. We can't do the minutes of the 9th. We're still on there because I need Councilor McCoy to do those. Mayor's communication. Anything?
I'm all set.
You're all set. Public speak. Anyone here from the public? Seeing none. Taking things a little out of order, or just quickly, the first two items, the 15,000 CPA, we already have approved that, and a public hearing is set for the next council meeting. And we've also approved and set the public hearing on the 7,000 for building operation miscellaneous technology. We'll move on to the budget in a few minutes. We do have some items that we need to approve because the public hearing has been set, and the first one I'd like to deal with is number 2 that starts on the second page of the agenda, which is a $4,000 to provide for a shortfall in medical billing services. Thanks, Jessica.
Thanks, Jess. This is one.
That's one, yep.
The copy is still on. And the horse. That's fine.
Maybe it's
Okay, the president is Chief Motter, and I think this is one of, if I recall, these billing things, it's one of those we expending money, but it's not all bad, if I have that right. But Chief, if you want to just explain.
Sure. This is,
Yeah, I'd like to hear this one.
this is the money we use to pay Coastal Medical Billing Company that does our ambulance billing for us. It was budgeted at $22,800 based on Mayor Tausnick's revenue projections. They charge us 4% of what we receive. Right now, there's about $4,000 left in that line. Last month, we had the second highest month of billables, over $134,000 in billables. So with about $4,000 left in that line, it's going to be gone before July 1st. So this is a good thing. Invest $4,000 and we got a 96% return on that investment.
Does that mean you're going to be billing out that much
Right.
more than the 4?
Well, they only charge us for what we receive,
Right.
which is the good, because we are getting about 50% of what we bill.
Yeah, I was just going to ask the percentage of what we would.
Yeah,
so you get back.
Medicare, our ambulance rate is above what Medicare pays. So anything above the standard Medicare rate is an automatic write-off. Under federal law, we cannot go after the patient. The city has to absorb those costs. And Medicare is a good portion of our client base. So we write off an average of 50% of what we bill. But right now, I think as of last month, we had taken in $509,000, about 60 behind last year, but it's still on track to exceed what Mayor Tausnick had projected for revenue, which is a good thing.
Have we raised our rates recently, or are they?
Yeah, March
I thought
1st,
there was,
we raised our
yeah, I
rates.
thought we did.
And we didn't raise them higher.
No, we were by far one, if not the lowest, one of the lowest in Western Mass on our ambulance billing rates, and we're probably middle of the pack now.
And a little aside, I did mention to you, I saw you up, I did see one of our ambulance being towed up King Street the other day when I was, I hear that one is under warranty, so that this isn't going to...
It was back the next morning and it was completely covered in the warranty.
Breaking stuff again?
Still.
Just because I went to grab it, the ambulance department has billed $1,085,441.81 through April, not including May yet, because I don't have that report. They've collected through April $509,370.73, and they have $425,000 outstanding to collect.
When you say there's 400,000 approximately outstanding, do we expect to get like 200,000 paid, or would that, you get what I'm saying, where you say 50%?
Well, you generally, like, as they get payments in for,
or would these be, we hope to get most of that, or?
well,
Yeah.
as they get payments in, and it's not, this is what the insurance we agreed to pay, they write off the difference. So those balances are gone. This 400,000 goes back several years, and we do send some off to collection. Dave and I have a little committee that reviews applications for relief. And so I would say that, it was started out with 300,000. I would say that a lot of that is the new billing. There's new commitments every month. Like he said, he committed over 134,000 in April. So I would say that you collect, I would say less than 50% of the total outstanding, because a lot of it is just, uncollectible. Which, every several years, coastal medical billing will contact us and say we need to write this off. It's uncollectible. People are gone. That kind of stuff.
Any additional questions by the council?
No, I move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the $4,000 for the reserve fund of the ambulance professional services. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
3-0. Thank you, chief.
Thank you.
I guess I'll leave it up to you gentlemen. Want to go through the other items that we need to clear? It's good.
Your original
You gotta- sometimes you gotta
your
spend
original
money to
comment
make-
just didn't make
Didn't make a lot of sense.
But it does.
Why don't we get rid of
The
the
items
small
that were,
ones
okay,
first,
so
and then
why don't we go back to new business again, and we'll do the next one, I believe.
mayor
is-
clerical?
Yes, the mayoral clerical personnel, 3,009.
I think that's a step increase. What's the mayor?
Okay, are you ready?
Yeah, I think I am, as soon as I find my, the chief's got me out of order, so.
Right here.
Go ahead, I know, I've read it over, so.
Okay, well, what this is at the end of the calendar year, I was no longer an employee of the city, so you have to, pay out whatever vacation time I had left. So that's, we didn't obviously plan in the budget that to, pay out whatever vacation time I've accrued and had not left. So it put a deficit in the clerical line, which was my line in calendar of 2013. So the new rate is a little lower than what mine was, so we didn't need the entire amount, but that's, there's a shortage in that line to actually pay the new clerical person that exact amount.
So this is paying for your unused vacation and other time?
Right. It's exactly that. It's vacation and, unused vacation and accrued vacation.
And therefore...
That's it. We don't get paid for buyback. There's no buyback sick time. Non-union employees aren't eligible for that. So my 6 month worth of sick
And
time
you
would
need the
go
money
back.
to fill the money in the budget to pay the new clerk.
The existing person, yes. And that's the exact amount that will cover the new employee's salary to June 30th.
The new employee started at what grade and step?
She started in the middle. I don't exactly have her grade and step in front of me, but as I said, there was a difference. I've been here 20 years, so I was maxed
So it's-
out.
yeah.
So there was a savings in that line, so we didn't have to go for, the exact amount of vacation and everything. I mean, I had holidays, accrued vacation, unused vacation, so all that I was paid out for. And because there was a difference in the hourly wage, I believe she came in the middle. We have 9 steps. She probably came in at a step 5, and I was a step, I was a step 9. After 20 years, you get maxed out.
How does that work when you hire someone normally started 5?
No, you hire
Step
somebody
5.
based on their qualifications, their education, their qualifications, their experience. We take all that into consideration.
Right.
How high in the step could you come in at step 8 or 9?
Well,
If somebody had, let's say the experience you had.
well, right, it's not related to
If they
this
had-
transfer, but I'd be happy to answer the question. The question is, somebody like me, that came in looking for this position because of my education and my 20 years of experience doing the position and my past experiences, I would come in I would expect to come in at the top of the scale. And it doesn't always work that way, but, our scales aren't that high. I mean, we're not talking about administrative level either. We're talking clerical level. Big difference.
I think that did happen with the auditor's position. We had an
The auditor
with
came
a
in
lot
as,
of experience
exactly,
and
our auditor,
came
the
in near the-
education, the experience, she came in
I
at the
remember
top
she
step.
came in at the top.
Exactly,
Very good.
exactly.
Karen, how, like, when you're the mayor, how does, I mean, obviously you still get vacation and sick time. Is that a set thing for mayors?
No,
So-
it's not at all.
So how do you,
She
Well,
doesn't
first of all, I
get-
don't get any, but second of all...
so you're just basic salary and you can,
It's a flat amount, that the mayor's salary is exactly that, be here, don't be here, but it's exactly that. So when I work 80 hours a week, I get the same amount, whether if I...
And if you take 2
had
days
somebody
and
that
go-
didn't
If she
show
wants
up.
to take 2 months off, she can, she just
Right.
might not get reelected.
Exactly,
Seriously,
exactly.
that's the evaluation of the voters. That's how it's won.
Right, it's not,
I don't know if I would have put it that way.
You
That's a
laugh.
very good question, that's a very
No,
good
I just
question.
didn't,
Because it's an elected position, you're not an employee. And you
It's
do
not.
not fall, you're not...
So you don't get any
have,
of it.
like, you don't, so in other words, I gave up 4 weeks vacation. And again, I gave up 6 months of sick time. And there's no buyback for it, so that's gone.
You wanted the job.
Yes, yes I did. Yes, I did. And I still
Okay.
want it.
All right.
Loving it.
I think this is fair.
any other
This sounds fair
questions?
to me.
Dan?
No.
JP, anything else?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the $3,974 from the reserve fund to the mayor full-time clerical. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Moving on to,
18,000 was?
yes, a supplemental appropriation. This is a supplemental appropriation of $18,000 from enterprise retained earnings to wastewater overtime. And I know Joe isn't here. I don't know if Melissa or the mayor want to, I assume this is,
Well, I mean, what I do know about it is that that particular department is having to work a lot of overtime, and I know that you've done several capital transfers for improvements to their equipment, and there was a period of time, you remember the stabilization vote was for a period of time, but until we had that vote and until we could actually fix that cleaner, they were required to come in and manually
And do that manual.
remove waste. And it also has a lot to do with rain. If there's a lot of rain, then there's additional overtime needed for monitoring of the septic system, so we don't have problems with backups or spills over into the clean waters of river and whatever.
And I provided you with
The letter, I did give you.
yes.
Carl's letter is pretty specific.
It is very
It's
good.
very specific. so
Very, very good.
I'm happy that it's explained anyway.
Carl's very detailed.
so this is really money that we've already paid out. I
Well,
mean,
we haven't paid it out,
I mean,
but if
but
something
but
was...
when I say paid out in the sense that we know this is coming, because the
Right, so-
overtime account's gonna run.
Right, they have enough in there now, but they don't see being able to get through the year.
Get to the end of the fiscal year.
And plus, as you know, they do a lot of the work that they've explained, they do a lot of the work themselves versus hiring out.
Hiring out.
So, it's-
Which Joe laughed, I was explaining to him earlier that, you know, is something that a lot of our departments do, and when he asked about waste in the city, I said, you don't give these guys enough credit for the amount of money we do save by the fact that, yes, we pay them overtime, but they do work in-house, which is a lot less expensive
Than contracting out.
and I just had a
Because we already
conversation.
have them here, and we're already paying their benefits, and they're knowledgeable people, and they're big assets to the city.
And it's funny you're talking about this because that is absolutely true and very commendable. I had a conversation yesterday with 2 out of the 3 supervisors, water and wastewater, and I told them that, you know, from now on, any of these projects that they're doing in-house that save, I mean, they save, sometimes they do it for a quarter of the price. And of course, they do it on their regular working time, so you're not paying it out at all. And that I would really like to have, you know, a list of what it ended up costing versus what it would have cost, so I can bring it to the council's attention. So, you know, they should be recognized for it. You know, the city
For doing-
should be,
going a little-
and the employees. It's a very big deal.
No, appreciate that. Anything further, gentlemen?
No, I'll move to
Jacob?
approve.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve $18,000 supplemental appropriation from retained earnings to wastewater overtime. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to,
I think
Any
everybody
others?
knows this one.
21,400?
right, and this is from retained earnings to water pipes and fittings, and if I understand right, this is for the leak we couldn't find for a while,
Right, the
correct?
hidden leak that,
That was under a brook, and
Right.
we were losing water.
the area made it very difficult to find.
Right, okay.
Right?
And so this is something that we've probably already somewhat taken care of here.
Right.
Probably some OT in that too, right? This is primarily for parts, isn't it? This one.
Yeah.
And there's actually the invoices
Breakdown of
attached, so it tells you.
This was an outside firm that, or some of it at least, or the parts, or did they do the labor?
They
or
did the labor.
Right.
These are just the things that had to be bought. Is that at the very end of Pomeroy? Do you know?
Where did they put, I think they put the,
And that-
Yeah.
You didn't go out there.
It's at
Dave,
the it's at the Culver Crossing.
is that right where you go
Where
down
they had-
the
they had-
gentleman?
Yeah, they had to ask for emergency permission to the Conservation Commission to do the work.
So it's right down where
Right.
there's a gentleman has that beautiful lot of
Right.
street. Because I saw it dug up there, I assume that's what
Yeah,
it was.
yeah, it was right at the culvert.
Okay, any other questions on this one? And this one seems kind of, we have to. Okay, we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the 21,400 for retained earnings to, enterprise retained earnings to water pipe and fittings. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. 3-0. Is that made that?
Did you set public hearings for the 30 and the 98?
I didn't set public hearings, that's all we're gonna do, because I didn't want to put them all
Okay, so we'll do
on one
those
night. So we'll do those,
next meeting.
right, we won't take up the 30,000 or the 98,000, and I did have a discussion with Mr. Mason, so I think there might be at least one more thing coming next week. So,
just
or
signed it
this
today.
coming, right,
Yep,
this
we're just
coming.
we're just signing it today.
So I didn't want to
So
put.
next meeting is the 27th.
Next meeting is the 27th. So moving back to the budget, obviously it's a somewhat of an arduous process here. What I'd like to do is, as we go through each section, we'll give the mayor and/or the finance director an opportunity if there's anything special that they want to impart to us, and then we'll go through it line by line, and the counselors can feel free to ask any
I want the
any questions.
counselors to know that my minutes will be
A little bit.
very sketchy. I don't intend to
Do it. right.
detail all the
Everything.
discussion unless
There becomes an item
there's
that,
a debate that is
an item that is debated.
controversial.
I hear you.
or something.
I will concur with that, Emma. So starting with the section 1, which is general government, I believe. Mayor, is there anything you want to say specific in this section that before we get into it, or?
No, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I
Okay.
think it couldn't be any tighter.
Okay, so going through, I believe it starts actually, there's that first page which is, kind of outlines everything. City council, so we can start over, I believe, on page 2 of 31, where we start with the mayor. Obviously, the mayor's salary, I assume the drop in the clerical salary is the
Exactly.
difference in your salary to the new position?
That's exactly right. And then you can see the minus 100 because of the longevity.
Okay.
You know, there's no longer any longevity.
Going down this,
After 10 years.
going down this particular thing for the mayors, I didn't have any other questions, but I mean, I don't know if you Jim, take your time, and if there's any other of those line items through the mayors, by all means, speak right up.
It's down 3.939%
Total.
from,
That would be from last year.
when it says variance recommended stage, that's between this year and last year's actual.
Original.
Original, not actual.
Right.
Well, you wouldn't know actual yet.
Right.
Stupid. Sorry, dumb question.
JP, anything on this page?
Well, most of that,
Most of that is the assistant's salary.
Most of that savings was the assistance. I mean, some of
And
these
the
other.
longevity,
Right.
you know, same thing.
mean,
You
some of
cut your
these,
food budget in half.
We don't
I
eat.
didn't even know you got a food budget.
And I should explain what that is.
No, you don't have to.
Yeah, well, at one time, we would do, the previous mayor would do, if there was breakfast for the library winners, different things like that. Or we do the food for the inauguration, we split
that
that
was
with
Barbara's budget.
Right. No, we split it. Just to let you know, Barbara splits that big inaugural party we have upstairs, the swearing in. Actually, the swearing in, not the inaugural party. She splits it with the mayor's office, the city council budget, and the school budget. So we all chip in for that
Everyone's chipping in
big
for that.
feast.
we went from $100 to $50. Anything else? Moving on to the next page, which is page 3. This is licensing board, personnel services. No holdovers. Again, there are increases here, like in print services. I mean, I guess up 80%, but again, it's relatively small, from $100 to $180. So I don't know
The
what.
whole thing's level.
Right.
Right.
It's level funded, the money's just been shifted around a little bit.
Right. That's as I see everything.
They've been using, I previously, used a lot of the printing supplies that I already had in the mayor's office, but it really should be separate. It should be, so you'll notice some of the different changes in the lines, but that's about it, it's level.
Okay, on to page 4, city auditor. And I guess I'll ask this question because this is the first one that came up, because I noticed and maybe you can explain it once and we won't have to go over it. In this particular case, the city auditor's salary went up 1.5%. Correct. Does that mean she's at max, and that was the COLA? Because
Yes.
some of the other department heads, there's different. Some are 4, some are 2,
Some are step increases.
and that's what I was, is that what it is?
Exactly right.
There's a step increase and a COLA? That,
Correct.
so as we go, each department
Right.
head may or may not be the
Right,
same.
and you can see that these two are max, just like.
Right, that's what I assumed that
Right.
was the,
One come in at max, and one's been here 25 years at least.
right. So there. Anything additional on the auditor's page? Pete?
Just a question on
Sure,
on
absolutely.
the longevity.
Fire away.
I thought we were, you said it was 100 per person?
No.
No.
After 10
Longevity is
years.
based on your
After
time.
10.
Actually,
After 20, it goes up?
it goes up
Every
after.
5 after that.
Right.
Okay, all right. That
So
was
it
my
was
question.
10,
All right,
15,
good.
20, 25.
Right,
good.
and just to let you know, if you ever want to see a policy that you would just love reading, it might help you put you to sleep at night, the longevity budget reads, if you're here 10 years and you start in the first half of the year, then you go around to the other half of the year, and then you get your longevity. So the longevity for me, when I first got it, after 10 years, I had to be here 12 years to get the 10-year longevity for the $100.
To get $100
Yes,
extra.
to get the $100.
Wow.
So it's a very strange policy. It says 10 years longevity, it's 12. If you're
Now,
hired
that's
after
over and
July
above
1st.
any COLA we approve for pay plan employees.
It's, the longevity is a flat amount. It's given out the first week of December.
To anybody that's been here 10 years.
10 years
15
is $100, then it goes up to 200 after 15, then 300 after 20.
but that
Then
kind of
obviously, when you see
incentive,
somebody
whatever.
getting more than that,
It maxes at 4 though, like if you stay here 35?
I think it maxes at 5.
500.
When we get to the tax collector's budget, you'll be able to see what it maxes at. 'Cause I don't think anybody's been here longer than Betty.
Anything else on the auditing page? Audit financial, and this is all level funded.
Scanlon?
No, actually, this went up, and, Valerie contacted Scanlon's office.
Mhm.
Apparently, there's yet more new GASB regulations, so
So just a little-
they're...
When-
This is what it will cost us next year. for the
Actually, that's an
audit.
estimate, because they told us to build in an increase, and they did not actually give us a quote, because she, before getting the budget, she didn't have a contact.
Question, I thought we were under contract with them
Yeah,
at a
but-
certain rate, or a certain amount.
But we don't have the new contract yet.
So we don't have a contract with them.
Well, you do, it's like a 3-year with to extend or whatever, but, so she put in that, she talked to the person in the office and said, what's the rate going to be? And that's what they told her, but
So to follow up on JP's question, our contract we have now is ending, and this would be, what's the next
I
one?
mean, typically, Tom's contracts, I mean, it's in the auditor's office, I don't have it in my office to go grab, but it's typically 3 years
years, yeah.
with an option to renew.
Right, I thought, but I always remembered it being a fixed rate for the 3 years. That's what I had thought, yeah.
So this must be
So this
a
is
new
their
3-year
projection of what the new contract will be
And
from
we
their
have a new
side.
contract coming up this year.
And
Oh, okay,
Or a renew.
whatever.
Right.
Or the option of doing.
Whatever, they can ask for an increase.
they can ask, they're asking for an increase. This is a figure that they generated. You guys will work it out, whether you give them the increase based on the contract that you negotiate.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
We haven't agreed to,
To pay
Pay
this,
it.
but it's
But there's-
anticipated that this may,
The money's in the budget in case.
yeah, in case we, I just wanted to clarify that.
Makes
Because I had
sense.
thought it was a fixed rate, and why did it change? Okay.
well, because
Because
there's
we're in the middle of a
addition-
contract here.
well, and there's additional
Additional
reporting
reporting.
required
Right,
to do
but
an
if they-
audit, which we must get.
But if we had a fixed contract, I would expect that the contract would be honored even if there were more things for them to do.
Yes,
If
but
we have a 3-year contract, you're gonna get X amount per year, okay. If the work increases,
then the
you
next
lose.
contract.
If it gets lower, we,
We'll see.
okay. You answered my question, thank you. Next.
We're saving money on our telephone.
3%.
That's very good,
Okay, assessor.
because the mayor doesn't talk as much as the other mayor.
Yeah, so this is another perfect example. You'll see the second line. That's the difference in an employee that was here and a new one
A
coming
new one
in.
come in, so they
Right.
went down 6, and again, getting back up to the full-time on the
Exactly.
assessor, that would be the
Steps.
1.5 plus a step. That
That's
brings
right.
it to 4.
But we're
exactly.
down,
And the big loss here is that last year was a reval year for the assessors, and they hire
An
extra
extra.
help, contracted employees to help with the reval year, and then that, it's an every 3-year process, so this is the cycle.
And
so it's
really-
down, it's not a revalue
That's right.
Right, that's what I was telling.
under the bottom line, purchase of services.
Right.
Yeah, and you can see it's in professional and technical services. 1319, that's where the big
Yeah,
drop is.
minus 91.38%.
But don't worry, we scooped that excess and put it somewhere else.
School department. Treasurer, do we have to pay her? God.
That line go down? No.
Wow, did you get a step increase? No?
I hope so.
No, I made a request to be put up to 35 hours.
Also, you're working more.
You mean because you're working 80
I
a
was
week,
just
you
gonna
thought
say-
we'd go up to 35 to catch up a
This-
little bit?
We need to be accurate. There's something that's bothered me for a long, long time. When I have, now that, I am in office, when I have an employee that's working 80 hours and getting paid for 34 hours, it's very difficult to watch, and I don't think it should be tolerated. So I think going to the full step of 35
Especially when she's
hours is
doing-
not even anything to consider. I mean, she's
I
here
won't
with me
say it
Fridays,
because we're
Saturdays,
on
and
the record,
Sundays.
but she's doing work that someone else should be doing. That's another-
Well,
Assistant salary is up a little. Nothing else down in professional
The
services.
total is only up 1.2%, so we're down in professional services. Is that, you were
Yeah.
down a lot there. Who do you hire in?
Well, it's for our financial advising, so we pay about $3,500 a year for the company that advises us on borrowing, and we pay some bank fees, not a lot, but we do pay some, and
So you don't expect them to be as high.
well, they haven't been, and actually I do think that they're going up, because I know what we've changed some services, and the banks are getting less generous, I guess. So I do expect to pay for a few more things, but I think I can make it work in there.
Okay.
Under postage, it's no kind of biggie for me, but under the postage one, it looked like if you go all the way back to 12, it was like 5,000, then it dipped to 3,500. and then it came back to 58, and now we're going to 5. Is there anything that varies, or is it just how the
Well, I
just
think
kind of
They
curious?
raised the rate.
I'm just curious how it.
last year, in 13, I had surplus on the thing, and so I didn't fill the
On the
meter
machine.
This is
on the
what you're
postage
putting on the
machine.
postage.
meter completely. I left it at 5,000 for next year because postage keeps going up.
Right.
We have stopped mailing some things, so we are saving money
Through
that way.
email or whatever.
Well, no,
Did,
we used to mail every single school employee's paycheck while they were on vacation. Now we're like, well, we'll mail their check, but if they're getting direct deposit, they can pick it up on Monday when they come back.
You mean the
The
stuff?
stuff.
Yeah. So, so we've stopped a lot of that, and so it saves money, you know. So, you know, the more we can get people to pick up their checks on Monday, provided they got paid on Thursday, we try not on vacation weeks and during winter break to mail that stuff. Over the summer, we have to mail it, but that's how we cut some mailing down by that. We
You don't even have to send me mine. I throw it right out.
Well,
By law, you have to, or?
The counselors, I don't think most of them would care. I mean, it's fine.
You can put it in
We're
my
doing a
box.
direct, we're doing a direct
some
deposit.
departments we put in their boxes, others, so it just, you know, anyone that we can get to.
It certainly wouldn't bother me to have that one.
Do we need to put that in the vote?
Bring it down.
Right.
And Joanne does,
Yeah, I mean, if you
I
put it in the
remember
box, it's great.
I got scolded when she was out because she pulls every single reimbursement check out and puts it with the payroll thing, and she was out on vacation one week, and I was doing the reimbursement checks later after I handed out payroll, and, you know, I caught hell because where's my reimbursement check? But if that also, you know, those are checks, we don't mail checks to people who are in the building or who are coming to pick up their payroll check anyway, so.
Good.
Postage is more, but we do little things and we don't.
Well, the whole department's only up 1.2.
Absolutely.
That's not bad.
So postage is funny, we haven't been using as much, but
Still gotta
I
have it.
left it kind of high, you can steal it from me if you wish.
You're actually down 800, so you're on the right, you're going in the right direction.
And she's down because she allowed for money that she has
Right, that
existing in
was
there.
Existing already. I had a question on the education and training. I noticed that other departments don't have as high in education and training. Not that $2,500 is a lot. I'm sure there are certain required things. Maybe you could just tell us a little bit about what that money goes to.
So the biggest cost there is, well, I have certain certifications that I keep for a treasurer. However, when Mike was here, he started sending me to procurement classes, and I'm now a certified procurement officer. Those classes are actually the most expensive classes. Like I went to one yesterday. Sometimes I can go in Huntington, but a lot of times I have to drive to Boston, so there's the travel back and forth for that. And the class itself generally costs between $200 and $400, where the other things are less, and I have to take several of those a year versus the things through my association, which are, you know, $50 or $200.
It's not just to maintain your status. It's to
No.
actually grow in the job and do other things. Doing procurement and being better versed in procurement is certainly an asset for the city.
And to continue to be certified.
Right.
Right, yeah,
Well,
so.
because Mike was certified, correct? But are you certified procurement officer?
No, I'm well aware of the procurements that we did, but I'm not certified.
point, I
which you
think-
need to be.
We need to maintain is we don't
Yeah.
expect the mayor to
That's-
have that
that's
professional
absolutely
qualifications. It's good to have someone in the building who is certified on a permanent basis, not elected, so we
It's-
hope she'll stay for a while.
It's absolutely
And-
imperative.
And
Imperative.
Because Jessica's here, there are a lot of other people in the
Yeah.
departments who have that experience more than I do, to be honest with you, but I don't know, I'm just the one that got the cert.
Right, which, you know, we do have, as
Patty
mentioned.
and Jessica
Right.
and Sue
Yeah,
and
I-
CDBG do a lot of procurement in our are very knowledgeable about it.
Are you certified, or is this something
I'm
you
not
just?
certified.
But it's just you have knowledge,
Yes.
It's on-the-job training.
institutional.
It's on-the-job
Exactly.
training is what it is.
Survival,
It's happening.
survival, right?
Right, that's what I had. you know,
But
doing
because
all
you're
the RFPs
signing,
and the bids out
does
of our
that mean
office,
you have the
but
right
I'm
to
not
sign the
certified.
purchase order because you're certified and she can't? What does that mean?
No,
It just,
Certified, what does that mean?
it's certified in procurement.
so,
Well,
I
she
mean,
knows how to
can be-
procure,
Which
but
means
she's
she can be the procurement
but
officer.
it's very complicated,
different.
so
Right.
even though we may think we know what we're doing,
Right.
for us, we want to have somebody that we can go to say, are we doing this right? Is this
Mhm.
correct? Are we interpreting the laws correctly? Because
Mhm.
every type of project has a different type of procurement.
Certificate.
Very
Whether it's a
different.
building, whether it's an infrastructure project, it's different.
And I
they're-
believe that for some procurement, you
Very
must have
detailed.
someone in the city who's designated
Right.
the procurement officer in order to do certain types of,
Mhm.
Purchaser. Okay.
not purchasing, certain types of bids and RFPs, you
Right.
must have
Right.
someone.
Wow.
So
We
we
have-
want Melissa to be, we want
Good.
somebody that we can
One.
go to that we know is
That you
checking
have
our
one
work to
person.
make sure that we're doing it
Doing it
correctly.
properly, right?
Right.
That doesn't mean you can't authorize procurement.
Oh,
It's
no.
just that she's a check that, and she's also there for you to answer
Right, so
questions.
we procured our own, the Mills project, we did the procurement for that ourselves. Any of the CDBG infrastructure projects we're procuring through our office. But again, to have another set of eyes making sure that we're doing
Doing
things
it
correctly
properly.
is
Makes
really, it's the checks and balances.
So it doesn't
And there are
impact.
certain things
It's
that
like-
have to have Melissa's certification, which you said.
Sometimes they ask for one.
Yep.
Right.
Right, okay, good. Excellent.
JP?
And my question, we have one in the city? One
One
person?
certified?
That I'm
On-
aware
on the-
of.
On the government, city government side. How about in schools? Is there certain other procurement requirements?
I only know of Melissa. You can be, well.
It's not uncommon, like when I go to
Right.
classes, I see a lot of town managers there, a lot of finance directors there, a lot of school business managers there. Sometimes DPW directors, fire department, and police, public safety heads will go, because they do enough for their own department that they,
As far as we know, we have one.
as
Well,
far as I
that
know.
is all we have,
Yeah.
is Melissa.
But that's not true.
Like
I mean, we could have others, but you have.
That aren't, right, that aren't.
You have to go train them, and somebody has to want to do it.
Well, you have to, it's not just
You
one
have to
little
get recertified every
certification,
year. Yeah.
yes.
They have to.
And like I said, there's several departments, I worked on it. Jessica has a vast knowledge, as does Patty, but we have not gone to be procurement certified. But we want to. No, seriously, it's very,
Thanks.
like, when I used to have questions, we'd call the AG's office, I mean, it's very detailed, and it changes, and the regulations, and you need somebody that is what they do and keep up on
It's
it, because it's
ongoing.
not, right, you just don't get certified, you're all set. It doesn't work like that.
Don't have to go back.
It's, I think it's a vital asset to the city.
Anything else, gentlemen?
No?
Okay, moving on to computers. This is Mr. Small's department.
0.51% increase, no big deal.
I believe it's just Barry and is that Mr. Quinn? the
Right, it's a
part-time?
10-hour position,
Part-time permanent?
right.
Okay.
And everything else is pretty, again, a few gentlemen, I don't really have any.
No, nothing. Capital purchase, we're not buying anything.
Not yet.
Tax collector,
So this is where,
$700 longevity, she's been here a while.
Well, that's
But
not
that-
just her.
Oh, it's
That's
a-
going to be her and one staff, so I'm pretty sure that's a 500 and a 200.
200.
Cool.
There's 3 employees in the tax collector?
Oh, yes.
3.
2 full-time and
One
1
part-time.
part-time.
Nothing stands out for me, guys.
Now, just a quick question, what would generate, obviously, the tax collector is at the maximum, what would generate her 2.88 increase to, in other words,
The,
percent, you get what I'm saying?
yes, on the
I
top
don't know
one.
why that-
Yeah, we're looking at
I mean, to be honest, I took a sheet, we had some help calculating everyone's hours and how many hours they're gonna work in the year times by the rate that we assumed it to be, and I just plugged them
Just
all in, and
completely.
so maybe that one is off.
that. Yeah, I think
I'll check it.
the percentages, because if you look at the line, you can see that the line's not off. the amount.
Right.
From the 14 to the 15.
Right. I just was curious.
Right.
And I know at one time the tax collector, there was another thing for collected, but I think that went away a few.
That went away. Right.
Yeah, that's only $600. That's not 2.8%.
No, that's what I said.
Right.
I think
Right.
it's one something.
So
I think
what?
the percentages, is that done on the spreadsheet, does that for you?
It's comparing it, the original to the, it's out of the system.
1% of 60 would be 600, and another half would be 900. 1.5 would be about 900, and that's just about 900, just under 900.
Oh, wait a minute, it's, I'm counting it wrong. It's 1.7, $1,700 is
Right.
So maybe I,
It might be 1.88, who knows?
Excellent.
Again, it was.
Maybe I got a typo. Entirely.
Okay, moving, anything, JP? I don't know.
I was just trying to do a calculation here.
And you're correct, the fees have been long gone.
Long gone on that.
Yep, long gone on that. There's no fees, just straight salary.
And so the whole department was only at 2%.
City attorney is down? Wow.
That might change.
Now, with-
With upcoming times.
does he work on is that his retainer, and then if he does more work?
No.
No.
I
he's
know the
based on
council
hours.
president's always on us about not using him. Joe, right?
No, he's on.
Unless we need him, and I didn't know, is it?
He's on an hourly wage, and it's very reasonable, and it's been like that for many, 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 many years. And actually, I think that might increase maybe next calendar year. But we're, as you already know, same with the council, we're very frugal. We use them, only when we need to. That's one of the budgets that's in my office. So I noticed that, we had a little leeway there and trying to make cuts. We
Just-
figured we could squeak by with
So
that.
this is your hopeful
Yes.
estimate that this is all we need?
Yes, and based on where
What
we are.
we're doing now.
And based on where we are this year.
This year.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's hope we can keep it there.
Anytime we can go
I'm
down.
optimistic. Hey, why have Joe here? You want to have him approve the
Yes,
minutes?
can we just take a break for a second, and
He's been wanting to have these minutes approved that you were at.
now that Councilor McCoy's here, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the April 9th meeting.
I will second it.
Having a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Abstaining.
2 abstentions. That way we can,
Yay.
I can file them with Barbara and not get in trouble. Okay, back to Personnel Director.
I don't know if you heard, but she is the racist.
And you can see the longevity in there also.
She's been here so long.
You know.
Right, there's 2,
One at 100, one at 200.
So that will change drastically depending on who you get, how many months are here, and
Sorry, county.
Well, there definitely won't be a longevity, so the 100 will
what
be
you
gone.
won't, but the step you hire them will depend on their experience.
Yeah, and actually, I'm glad you brought that up, Dan, because the position is going to be, as you know, we posted it on Monday, and we're advertising it, I believe, this week. And what we decided to do is, when we advertise our positions, advertise the range. The range, and so I have advertised it from the step 1 to the existing step that was in here. So I didn't advertise the
Is
whole.
this, what step is
you
she
know.
at currently?
She would be at a 7,
She's
and
at
she would have been going to an 8. And as
So
you know,
this
there's
represents
9.
an 8 salary here?
Yes.
Okay. And there's
So-
only 9 steps.
And what we, right,
So that's the
exactly.
max anyway, almost.
Right, but what we did is we didn't advertise the max. We advertised step 1
One
to
to
step,
8
to
or
step
7. 1 to 7.
You know, just figuring that's our estimated hiring range.
Range that
You know what I mean?
hoping.
Hopefully.
Right. I hear you.
So yes, the answer is that will change.
Looks like most everything else is kind of down here.
It's only a,
Except for postage.
And I think I told you too that our estimated hiring date would be in July. either right before the 4th of July, which is on the Friday, or the week after the 4th of July. So we will be without somebody for a good long time.
And who would take over her duties, Karen?
You're looking at us.
Well, her assistant is pretty good.
No, I know,
No, her assistant is excellent at what she does, but she is not a director of personnel, so those jobs will be
Those type of
between
decisions
Melissa
still
and
have to
myself.
be made by us.
And our auditors
phone
and
call.
anybody else that walks down the hall. You might want to leave now.
Looking at me.
You might want to leave now.
You may not want to
No.
come up
And
to
it-
this floor between,
And again, the other good point
Back-
about, when you're small, like our offices are small, and we're, as you can see how closely we are together, we intertwine constantly. So there's not a day where one doesn't know what the other is doing, what we're working on, and we generally, work as a group. So,
So Councilors McCoy and Winnie, by all means, if you see anything as we're going through this, feel free to jump right in. So, and we're on personnel. Anything else on personnel? Says 1.5, okay. Negotiator. Looks like we're,
what do we have left to negotiate? We got
We
police
just-
and fire down.
police, fire.
Starting over with everything.
Well, actually, no. I started over with, there's 2 DPW contracts that I'm in the process of now. The fire contract is the 3rd. Police is the following
Year.
July 15. It's hard to remember what
This
it is.
July 15th.
Yeah, so 3. To answer your question, 3.
Well, I hope you're right on keeping it at 10,000.
Well, we're trying.
hopefully things will go smooth. City clerk.
She got a COLA increase,
Right.
but she's maxed out, right?
They both are.
Roughly maxed
So
out
this is-
stepwise.
They've both been there many years.
So would this be a 5 and 2 also on the longevity, or would there be more,
It might be, right. No, I
No,
think it
Barbara's
might-
got it.
Barbara's-
Yeah, it's going to be a 5 and
Well, how long's Mary Ann been?
20,
So she should
she's
get more.
just, yeah, you can see the difference from the 6 to the 700. She's just stepping up because she'll be here, she's here just a hair longer than I was. So I would have been getting my next longevity step. So that's where she is.
she might be in one of those after July, so she...
No, she started July 1st. She doesn't have to wait till the year 12 to get the 10-year
She
bump.
Only year 11.
Yeah.
That's only a 1.5% total increase.
Right.
Barbara's pretty good about her budget.
Anytime it's
Was
under
excellent at running
2.5,
her
I
office.
feel we're winning,
Yes.
or at least holding the water back at the dams.
Look at the next one now. 17.91%.
Election year.
Well, is this, I guess,
Every year's an election year.
but we did have a couple of special elections this year, and I don't know if they were all reimbursed, weren't some supposed to be reimbursed, and I don't know if they...
It's for 15.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I see, so this is what we're projecting. But now, is this in
She
the
did say-
anticipation of the legislature asking for
No, she has.
early voting, which would increase her staffing?
In
or-
the Senate
So we have Senate.
and governor election,
So-
Senate and governor election.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah, I don't know.
Sheriff Crowley's taking an election license. She said.
It's not about the schools, is it because of the...
2 elections,
Different votes.
September and November.
Primary.
There we go, the
Primary
primary.
and then,
That's it. That's what you were looking for, the primary, versus when it's just us.
Right. Because there is no primary.
Last year there
Not-
wasn't a primary, this year there's a primary.
Because those are...
Last year we had all those extra. We had the extra Senate
We
primary.
have the school votes, was that last year
No,
or the year before?
yeah, but we had the extras. We had the
Right.
Senate one last year too.
That's right. We
Which
had
was
the
a
extra
primary.
marquee.
Then we had the marquee one.
First floor and then
We had,
Yeah.
so we had actually,
Yeah.
yeah.
Some of those we got money, or we were supposed to get money. I don't know if
Yes.
it's...
Yeah, we did
States
get
always
it.
say they're going to give us money, they don't always... No, I was
We had to
concerned...
shell it out first, but it didn't come.
I was concerned because I know in a conversation with Barbara, she did mention that possibly she wasn't sure how it would affect the city, is the legislature's talking like kind of across the country where they're starting this early voting, where you might have a couple of days or that you start before, and someone would have to man the polling during that time, so it might be an expense. Again, I don't think that's all been finalized. at this
No, it
stage, so
hasn't. That's an
But it might be
election
something that
nightmare.
hopefully there'll be something that they'll give money to the cities and towns for. But,
Hopefully.
anything else on election and registration? Ian? JP? No? Okay. Moving on to Conservation Committee.
Nothing.
Just, you may,
Yeah.
at one time did the chairman get travel, or
Yeah, so
is that down
what-
in?
Yeah, what you'll see is in 2012, there was $1,200 that was
That,
in the
this in-state travel, which was for like site?
Right,
or-
for driving around town and going to sites and meeting with residents when they had questions. The auditor did not like that that's how the money was being dispersed. So in 2013, you'll notice that there was $300 in the travel, and then the rest of it was up into purchase of services, so it got moved into a separate account. So that money is still reserved there for in-town travel.
Okay.
The current commissioners don't really use it and take advantage of it. So it's available to them if they feel like they need it, if they feel like there's a lot of site visits going on. I would say that we are looking to try to do a regional shared conservation agent with Southampton, and then we're in the middle of having a feasibility study done. So this money could potentially be used, because it's under the purchase of services, to be used for
for
a shared
agent.
Yeah, if that actually works out.
So the 1,200 really was just a shift based on what the auditor.
It's
how
a
the
shift
auditor-
from what the auditor wanted, yes, from 2012 to 2013.
Dues and memberships look like they went up, but I
They did.
assume there's,
It's for each member and myself. We have membership into the Massachusetts Conservation Commission Coalition. And so there's annual fees that are, so that's what the fees are going to be for next year.
anything else? No? You look like you're looking, Dan.
Well, it was up 6%. I just see all the increases as necessary. Mainly the part-time went up 11%. Okay.
Okay, moving on to, I guess there's nothing on the conservation consultant here.
No, that was the wetlands fees that were put into the budget, and in 2013, we decided that we would just not put them into the budget, and that if they needed to access
18.
a professional, they could just use a purchase order through the actual account, rather than
I
putting it
was
into
on
the
the wrong
budget.
page.
Do you want to go back to this?
No, fine. I didn't see anything.
Okay, city planner.
This is the page I
Oh, you're already, I'm the city planner because she was talking, so.
promise.
Okay.
Part-time,
So part-time regular, that's Jamie,
mhm.
and that's her salary. She is getting.
She get more hours.
She's getting, one more hour a week, and she's getting a step increase on January 3rd.
So 1 extra hour and 1 step.
Yep.
Happy year stuff.
And part-time other?
So that's for Susan Pena, who is our CDBG coordinator. She gets paid 21 hours a week out of the CDBG grant funds. The city picks up 11 hours a week. She is instrumental to keeping the departments together, and especially on our projects. She is my
Grant researcher.
She's my grant administrator, but she also deals with all of the financials for our infrastructure projects, and so she's on the books, and she's fantastic. Much needed and the reason for the increase from the previous year is that last year she was funded also 11 hours, but we had CDBG funds that were ending in September, so she actually started picking up the city hours in September rather than starting in July. So that's where that increase is from, is that this year she will be starting in July.
I know it's block grant in the community block.
Community development block grants, yeah.
And it's worth mentioning, because you didn't notice this, that the reason that Jessica isn't going up 4.5 is because she picks up some of her time out of other grant funds, and to the point that she can continue to fund her position from those grant funds, she will, but in January, we're gonna have to pick up the balance of her scheduled hours.
Is that something we'll get a supplemental on? Or is it?
No.
That's
It's
figured in.
designed,
Oh, it's already
It's
figured.
designed
Oh,
into
okay.
it.
I thought-
Right, but, so, you know,
It's
she doesn't,
designed,
yeah, she doesn't take additional hours for those grant time, she's saving this.
Right, but she's getting a step increase, but it's not showing up here because of the grant.
Right.
I'll get a
That's
step-
what you just said.
I'll get a step increase in March, and the city is going to be funding 32 hours a week from July 1st through December 31st. And then after that, the city will be paying 34 hours a week.
Good.
Another one that works 8.
I was just gonna say, another office that, I think, you know, when you start recognizing people, the staff in that office is just amazing. And, you know, I always like to say about Jessica, she doesn't know what to wear during the day, whether she's gonna be out on the field or in the office or both. I mean, it's almost like she
Doesn't
should
she
have a
have-
wardrobe right in her
She'll have
office.
a wardrobe in
because-
her office, right?
And it doesn't matter, you know, it doesn't matter what day it is, they're almost always the same, day and nights. So, not anybody that would put that effort into it, you know, along with her, and Susan, who was vital to us, and we had a situation at one time, and she was part-time, and she stepped up to it and took the full-time hours, which was really vital. And also Jamie, it's an unbelievably fantastic, high-stressed, efficient department.
I mean, I just want to note sort of, just to tag on with the grants, that it's one thing to get the grants.
Yes.
It's a whole nother
To
thing to
manage.
administer and manage them. And most
Right.
grants don't come with administrative time tied to them. So CDBG is one of those rare grants that have administrative time that you can charge to the grant. Most grants that we apply for don't have that. They expect us to do it as part of our job. And so it's a tremendous amount of time to manage these grants and to manage them correctly so that we don't get audited and a risk slap. So.
And what you've brought up at prior meetings too, Jessica, is especially that Mills project. That's not only a great grant project, but has helped the city immensely with the infrastructure. It's done things that we never would have been able to do on our own. So,
So how reliable are these CDB grants year from year? Like, it sounds like quite a bit of...
They're competitive. So we are, it's a very competitive grant. We're competing against all of the communities in Massachusetts that don't just get their money from HUD directly. Where we rank, they give each community a score based on different data sets, like how old our housing stock is, the population of low, moderate income individuals, what our tax rate is. They have a whole formula and they give us a number. And that number allows us to compete within this process. But that number, for us, we're right on the edge. So there are some years that, you know, we get it, there are some years that we don't. And a lot of it has to do with our community needs score. The communities that have the highest need are more likely to get the money, and that's places like the Cape that have really high property taxes and actually a huge population of low mod income that are not seasonal folks that live there year round. So we never know whether CDBG funds are going to come. And we're actually waiting to hear for this next round.
And your staffing, a lot of your staffing is based on those grants.
Susan's, 21 hours is based on that grant, so.
absolutely,
We try not to think about what happens if we don't.
We cannot positively do without that staff. Absolutely, positively not do without it.
So if I heard you correctly, Susan's 21 hours and then
CDBG,
11 hours.
11 hours.
Is the city.
So 32 hours.
32 hours total. Any other questions?
Dan? JP?
Just look briefly at the other items. No.
Okay, arts, city arts.
Didn't we not approve
A slight increase?
slight increase in her because of grants running out?
Excuse me?
Her salary was grant funded and we increased it last year, I thought, because the grants ran out.
Last year, what happened is things got switched around. It was still, the budget for ECA was still 25,000, but her salary was 20, and there was 5,000 set aside for direct purchasing, whether it's paying artists for art walk or whatever. So what we did is we absorbed that we took that $5,000 and we flipped it completely into salary, so that rather than getting paid $20,000 from the city, she was getting paid $25,000 out of her salary. She's a good portion of her salary is still being picked up by a grant. So we don't, again, it's one of these situations, we don't know year to year. These are 2-year grant cycles. We know that we have guaranteed funding for next year for her. We don't know what's going to happen after that. And so if it comes to a point, and the grants that we received, the Adams grant, they have basically told us, this is seed money and we're not funding you forever. There will be a time that we will not fund you anymore. So we need to be prepared for that day of when we don't have that grant funding and we have a smaller portion of her salary being paid by the city. I think it's a really important position to the city. It contributes to our economic development, where we're heading as a city in terms of economic development. So I would hope that the council in the future would, you'll see that we actually requested her full salary this year. And we understand that the budget situation as is, and we're grateful that the mayor even put in for a slight increase for her salary and recognizes her value in the position in the city government.
No, you answered the question I had, and that was your request, which I assume was the city picking up if grants.
Was paid.
But as you know, the city council can only cut budgets.
Does she get is this 26 our portion, or is that her
Yes.
total
Yes.
funding?
No,
No.
that's just, that's,
So she gets 40?
No, actually, that number's wrong. This was the miscalculation. So she's actually, this was calculated at a grade 10, step 2. She's actually grade 9, step 2. So I think her salary is like 39.
right.
That's what she's getting paid now.
Right,
but-
she's still a full-time employee.
But
Yes.
14,000 of it is paid by grant or something
Correct.
like that.
Right.
Correct.
And, you
So it's
know,
not a big increase if we lose the grant. But we got the grant for 2 more years.
right.
No, we only have it for one more year.
15.
We're heading
So
up for our second
FY
year.
16 is when we're going to hit that.
Possibly,
If
yes.
we don't get another.
Correct.
And as you can see, you know, this was a position that was very difficult, and by working together, you know, Melissa, Jessica, and Burns, they were able to reach and, you know, find the funding to keep this a full-time position, because unfortunately, the city was not in
I
a
fully
position
agree. I fully agree. You
to
can't
do
it
it.
now.
So, I mean, it was really one of these, every avenue was opened up and looked at.
Sure.
And I'm just thrilled that we're able to keep it a full-time position.
Absolutely.
And the one thing that we did do, Jessica, tell me if you think it's helpful or not, but I thought it was that instead of putting in a dollar amount, we decided this year to tie it to a certain number of hours. Is
Right.
that 24? Is that what we ended
Yes,
up
I think so.
23?
I think it's 24.
So that
That's what the
as
city's picking up.
right, and so
Correct.
that as
And she's 35 hours.
as steps and COLAs come into place, even if we never move from the 24, we're going to also assume those increases so that the number doesn't go, you know, become a smaller percentage of her overall.
It's
And-
easier cut and dried like this, I think.
Than to have a flat amount. So
Right.
that's one thing that we talked about, and then it sort of stuck it there. Certainly not at the level that we want to fund that position, but at a level that's not in dollars, but in time and, you know.
Right.
Similar to how Susan's salary, the CDBG grants coordinator, same sort of thing. This is how much the grant's picking up.
Right.
This is how much the
By
city's picking
hours.
up by hours.
It's easier to follow. But this was, you know, there's going to be a lot of you'll see a lot of difficult decisions and very tough times, and this is one of them. You know, some of them stand out, some of them don't, but this was one of them.
Jessica, what was the purchase of services back in 13 that we don't have now? Was it part for
It
the
was-
Bear Fest, or was it something else? Or?
She basically works out of 3 accounts to pay the bills. There's a lot of purchase orders that she has to fill out for every art walk. Anybody who's paid on art walk, for Unbuttoned, for any of the folks that give workshops, all of those have purchase orders attached. So there's the city account, there's the grants account, and then there's a donations account, the CA donations account. So I can't tell you exactly what that
What it
was
was
for,
for,
but it
but-
could have been for, you know, food for art walk, it could have been to pay artists, it could have been to pay for somebody to run a workshop. It could have been any number of small items.
But she's able now to cover it either through grants or donation accounts.
We
that,
use specifically the grants and the donation accounts
to cover that type of
Correct.
expense. So,
Correct.
anything else? Okay. Hazardous waste collection looks like zeros.
Well.
Oh, wait, well, hey,
This is actually
let's not be too
something,
hasty here.
yeah, this is
So-
something we need to be doing.
Yeah, it hasn't been
For-
done since 2012. Patty has taken this over in the Public Works Department. She is, this month, I believe, going to another hazardous waste collection. Just, she's been working with a neighboring community.
Right.
I think it's Northampton, but I'm not
Yeah.
sure. To
Someone
see-
else's hazardous waste, to see how we can hop in
just
and.
sort of, see how she organized it and how,
fun day.
so that she can do it. So it's possible that, at some time during 15, we'll go ask you for an appropriation to do this because it does need to be done. But we weren't sure.
We had no idea of-
At this point,
What?
if she'd have it together in time and when it will be
Right.
scheduled.
And I get a lot of phone calls.
Yes.
Well, was the last,
It's important.
was
The
the
last one is in 2012.
right, is that the one, I think it was at White Brook?
Yes.
You
Exactly, you drive
drive through and got stopped.
Exactly.
Part of it is this was in the city planners.
Yep.
Right, I was gonna say, I
jurisdiction,
thought
and when
that-
I came on, I said, I can't do this, I'm
No.
sorry.
Right.
I passed it.
So,
You don't have your hazardous certification. Just not certified in hazardous.
No
So-
hazmat suit down there, I'll see.
I know
We
it's not
pass things
something, I know it's
around
not
every
something
so
we can
many
cut
years.
from the
I'm happy
budget,
to take it on.
but to advocate,
to go
Really
do.
happy, but-
So the money for it is in the DPW budget.
No.
No,
it's not.
there's no-
We're
there's no
not.
money.
We're gonna get a supplemental for it.
Right.
If
If it
she puts the
happens.
program together this
Right.
year.
Right. She's-
But we had no idea what to even put in there because, first of all,
It's
if we
been
could
so
pull it
long.
together. And what would it be? So, as we said, she's on a hazardous waste field trip to check that out.
Reconnaissance, yes.
Yes.
are there ever any grants, state grants for that, or state programs?
There may be, I know
it's-
that there's stuff for recycling. I'm not sure about
I mean, I'm
hazardous.
thinking of certain electronics maybe, certain things that are hazardous.
Well, there's
I mean,
all.
Electronics is
We
different.
do,
They have
we do
those-
straight, we still have our electronics, yes.
Yes, and you'll see those around, even though, we have them, but you'll see those around from time to time.
Right,
but-
right. And there is a hazardous waste facility in Central Mass that I often send people to that's open 5 days a week. So, but they would have to drive their stuff to Central Mass to the drop-off.
What kind of waste are we talking about?
Talking about like
Oil-based
waste oil.
oil-based
Yes.
paints,
Different toxic, right.
solvents, stuff you might find in your basement. A lot of times it's people who are moving
Right.
and they need to get rid of this stuff now before the sale goes through. That's a lot of.
On things like paints, I thought paints could be, you could take like cat litter and
Not-
put it into
not
the
all
paint.
of them.
Some latex,
And
I
it
think
becomes
you-
hard.
Latex is different,
But
oil-based is a
Oil-based
no.
won't take the
Right.
litter. Okay, so it won't harden up and become like you painted a surface. Could you paint a surface over and over with the oil-based and then now all of a sudden it's...
You can try it, let us know how that works.
I don't know, I
Just use it all up, find
I'm
something to
concerned
paint.
somebody's gonna take it and throw it in the river.
Well, that's why we're ta- that's why we're-
Silly, because we're not providing a service.
That's why we're telling you that
Where
that's
you
what we're
put it.
doing.
Yeah.
So you can take on this project if you'd like. You can go to the seminar, to the outing with Patty.
Yeah, that kind of-
But that's what
Jessica
we're,
should be made hazardous certified.
Oh.
Dan, I like your thinking.
so that's why we're telling you that that might pop up
It's a
this year.
$40,000
Because it's
bumper.
needed, we should be doing
Okay,
it,
then.
you know?
Thank you.
Okay, that's enough for waste.
We give
Recycling.
equity actors hazardous pay,
Recycling. I guess it's the same as last year.
No changes.
Is this just to what people bring to like the,
That's what we paid you, so.
Okay,
for
so-
city, like city
City
waste or
I think
city
so.
recycling?
I give the bills up to DPW when they come in my box. So I believe it's for, Karen, do you know?
For probably the white goods collections at the highway garage
Yeah,
would
yeah,
be
yeah, that's what I was thinking. Okay.
like where we recycle, and then, at the highway garage, how we have all.
Right, this-
Right, pickups.
And that's level funded. Handicap awareness, we had $75 last year, and was that a
They
program?
didn't spend it.
Good.
It's for the commission, the disability commission.
That they-
Occasionally there's trainings. There was not any trainings out here in the
Part of this.
region, this part of the world. And I'm trying to kind of have a rebuild effort with the commission right now on a recruiting basis for members. So,
Gotcha.
so maybe next year, if we get some good activity going, I may ask for a small amount of money for training, but at this point, I don't see
We had a recent appointment to that, didn't we? Did we?
I have 2 members, as far as I know.
Right, no.
I have somebody who's
To the
putting in an
handicap
application.
Planning.
Well, you know what, I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's actually something that I wanted to, maybe you want to bring up too, about some of our boards and commissions are seriously low and quorum scary. So we're wondering if the city councilors might want to get back into announcing.
Yeah, I
Well,
can
tell
do
us.
that.
We'll do
That
it
would be
every
great.
day.
That would be
No, I know,
great.
that would be great.
That would be neat.
That would be
Give me a
great.
list of
We have
what
some
you
committees
need.
that we need members for commission, the Disability Commission and the Conservation Commission are 2 right now that
Very, very
I'm
good.
actively.
Actually, I think the
recruiting
list is on the website.
Well, the
It's
list
on
is
board.
the list comes out of my office, it's on the website, but, and it's posted. But what, I didn't know if it would be, if you want to read them all, Joy, or if you just want to read the ones that are in dire
I mean, you
straits.
could, or you could just say there's, continual need. But right now, for Conservation Commission, we're getting to the point where we may not be able to process
You're using
permit
some math,
applications
but-
because we're getting,
Yeah, I'm just
we
trying to
have
figure out which
possible
column
forms.
she's
Send me
using.
some out.
Okay.
With my packet.
Okay.
Do you want me to just give you the list?
This one's the recommended, and that's
They're in my
what
box.
Do you want, but that's what I mean, do you want the whole vacancy list, or you just
what
want
was
the ones
requested
that
in the
are,
permit and then what Karen approved.
Right.
and then you can check.
Highlight.
Just start
I was
there.
trying
Or
to-
start with
Okay.
that you really
Of then
want me
what?
to.
I'll email it to you tomorrow.
Focus on.
Oh, I see what you're saying, the percentage, what is the
Okay.
difference from the, I would assume
Thank you.
it's
So with my packet.
I think it'd be
recommended from
helpful.
actual.
And I
but
also
maybe
think, and I think that would be you too, Joy, if you wouldn't mind, the Council on Aging has a few things that she wanted, they're obviously looking for volunteers, that might be something that
Yeah,
you,
throw that.
I don't think you would mind announcing that
Throw
either.
that in my,
People listen to this,
that's fine, sure.
things.
Does the city have a Facebook page or just you, or what's?
We have many
We have
Facebook
separate. I have
pages.
one
It's off the
planning
website.
department.
That would be a place for.
I have,
Well,
and I haven't
right.
gotten, we've listed the Conservation Commission one twice now for the past month and have no hits. I'm beginning to think that face-to-face recruitment
Yeah.
is better, so.
Okay, on to the planning board. Looks like we're asking, will this be a clerical now, someone's gonna take the...
Yes, so we have somebody that was hired when we received the CDB, this last round of community development block grants. I was able to offset my salary, and what was remaining from my salary offset, we used to hire a clerk for both the planning board and the ZBA. The ZBA already had a clerk line item that was not being spent, and so we have somebody already in place, and she's taking minutes for both boards, and she's great. She's a law student, she's studying land use and housing, and so she's perfect. She's great.
So
this-
before that, you were doing it, right?
one of my members was doing it, and I was spending about 2 hours coming through these minutes, so
Right.
it's really worth it to have somebody.
And the
Um,
importance of having them done.
It's all
Well-
tied back to the permit decisions themselves, so the discussion really has to be clear, and it needs to be reflected in the
Yeah.
permit. So to have a good set of minutes is important for both these 2 boards. So yes, so this is adding a line item for her to continue to pay her.
I will say from a personal note, it much improves that you became the planner.
Thank
I'll
you.
just say that
Thank you.
for what it's worth.
Thank you.
I guess there's 100 for in-state travel, which is new. I know, is that to
That's
send
just,
somebody if they want to go to a training?
Yeah,
or
there's
updates? I know
couple
sometimes.
members have been going to the.
Worcester, I know sometimes, or
Yep,
I
in
talked to
Worcester,
one of the
the
members
citizen
that was
planner
going out to
training.
Worcester.
Yep, so they go there. That's the only one that they typically go to, but it's $50 per person. So I had 3 members go this year, and only one of them is now actually collecting the travel this past year. But yes, so that's the offset to the travel.
Getting back to advertising, I know that was a little bit of added because I know we had a couple of joint hearings between city council and planning, and that one, it was a question, I know with Barbara, and that of who
pays for
who
what.
has to pay. So
And
like now we're going to split it or whatever,
Well,
or
now
try to.
I understand from her perspective that she's paying for, when you guys have your full vote, she's paying for that public hearing, which I didn't understand or realize. So, yes, so I cover the costs for the joint ordinance and planning board public hearings, and then she pays for the cost for just the council public
The
hearing.
full
The full
council.
council. Yep, so that's how it.
Barbara loves to split those bills.
And it's hard to predict, this
No,
number,
right.
really. I
But you
mean,
don't know what-
We have no idea.
What
but-
comes up in a course of the
what
year.
comes up, so it's a best guesstimate, yes.
Anything else at the other end of the table? Pioneer Valley Planning Commission assessment, did this go up or say?
It's the same.
Same.
And we actually got that before the budget was complete, so that is no.
That is the number. Anything on that? Okay. Zoning board, the 500 from 600 is obviously that extra 100 went over to supplement the clerical on the planning. Everything else looks a little down here.
It's below what last year, that's
Right.
good.
Planning's up, zoning's down. Economic Development Committee.
So the $150 covers the local works website, the cost of
Okay.
maintaining that website. And then I reduced their printing budget to just $50 in case that there was some materials that local works wanted to print or the EDIC themselves. And then the $200 is the cost to a portion of mulch for cleanup day. The
All
EDIC
the-
does half, pays for half the mulch, and then the chamber puts in money and they do fundraising for that. So
That's the
cost of the mulch.
Because they had kind of asked for the printing, right, too? Like, not this year, last year? or
They actually asked me for a lot more printing. I didn't give it to them, so.
Anything else? Dan?
Just
Oh.
the Economic Planning Department Development Commission, how does that relate to the EDIC?
It is the IT.
Oh, it is, yes,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, we just provide professional, technical support to them. We staff their meetings.
Okay, building operations. Okay.
Well, as you see the top line, there's 2 employees in there,
Okay.
and so that's the increase.
This
which,
is like
neither will-
custodial
Yes,
staff?
yes, exactly, two custodial staffs, and which, by the way, take care of 3250. Also have to oversee our property. They don't have to take care of the inside of town hall, but still we're still responsible for the parts of the building. Have to check it out. Also, Council on Aging and now Parsons Street School. So they're pretty
They're
torn.
pretty-
That includes snow removal, mowing inside of the buildings, you name it.
How about the car allowance? What's,
That is for one of the custodians that was put in not all that long ago. He uses his own vehicle all the time to go from one of the buildings to the other building to the other building or wherever he needs to go with the trailer, to trailer the lawnmowers or the snow blowers.
so he
or
doesn't
whatever.
use a city vehicle, he
Yes,
uses his own vehicle?
right. And at one time, we were just doing mileage, and it's difficult to just keep track of your mileage when it's every single day. So it just made more sense to just put in, yes, exactly.
Heat, fuel, I guess these all somewhat,
Right.
Well, things are going up everywhere.
I can tell you that the utilities are a nightmare. We aggregated for natural gas and electricity, and our 3-year contracts ended the end of last calendar year, which we were really happy that they were ending because they were 3-year contracts. The first year you save, the second year is probably okay, the third year you don't. So we were really happy to have them all go back as of January 1st to just regular Columbia and Wimco. Well, what happened January 1st is when they all went back, Wimco and natural gas went out of control.
Right.
So I've been working, we have a fantastic volunteer group, the new Energy Advisory Committee, and I've been working with them, and we're getting prices on anything and everything to see, we're definitely going to go back into electric aggregation for our utilities and natural gas. So we're in the process of collecting all kinds of prices and just looking at the right time to lock in. Because even if the savings is just for 1 year, this year blew us out of the water. As you know, this is the first time my building operations budget has ever come for a transfer. And that was because of utilities and, and then just maintenance. Well, that was elevator repair. So it's a crystal ball. If it's a long, cold winter,
Yeah, this year was
burning hot
terrible.
summer, you just hope you don't get both of those in the same fiscal year, you know? Because one pull, you know, as you obviously know, one pushes up AC, one pushes up heat, so that's really the only. And I didn't bump those up at all, which is a little scary, but that was based on hoping that this was an extreme year. It was. It was a very long, cold winter, so.
Okay, anything on the next page?
Purchase of services, what's that?
Where are we getting?
Page
Next
29.
page, total
29.
two, is that the total of?
Yeah, that's
I think
the
that's the
total of the
this whole group
expenses.
here.
All the other ones, okay.
Right.
So it was up 11 because of the fuel cost.
And you know, you'll notice as you go through the budget, another great thing that Val has done, you're not going to see tons of holdovers hanging around anymore. You'll notice that, you know, all those lines are zeroing out.
I know that was Counselor Cobb's big thing,
Yeah.
holdovers. He was-
Well, I commend Val on that. You know, she's really been great on cleaning up a lot of things, you know, and there's no gray areas around here, for sure.
I'm sorry, holdovers were a budget line that wasn't completely used in the past, that money was just been.
Right, what they were is, what they were supposed to be for is if, okay, it's the end of the year, all our bills come in, but in July, you're going to get June's bill. So a WIPCO bill, for instance, you know, I need to hold the money over to July to pay it for June. And then what happened is, you know, we held them over, and then held them over, and then just let them sit. And at one time, we were using them to supplement our budgets, which Val told us immediately that will never happen again. And Val is 100% correct. So, and it helps a lot. I think it, you know, it makes things cleaner, it's easier to see. And you will see holdovers for specific purposes, but it will be for that specific purpose, and it will be used for that specific purpose. It won't be closed out and then used elsewhere.
And if the biggest holdover account is the teacher salaries for summer, or not?
Yes.
Yeah,
Because they're paid 12 months.
well, no, not all of them. They are paid 12 months, but a lot of them will take their lump sum, their summer pay in June, and some of them will opt to be paid through July and August. That's what.
Right, but they're holding it over from the.
They have that option of whether they want to take the lump sum at the end of the year or they want to get it spread out throughout the summer.
Right.
I guess the final on the section 1 is rail trail, and it looks like we've come down a little bit here.
I think I was just feeling desperate.
Right.
Because I looked at that just now and I was like, why did I do that? I must have been afraid.
And, you know, we do have to, at some point in time, step up to the plate. I mean, we really, really, really do. I mean, if it wasn't for a fantastic group of organized volunteers, and I mean, this is our property. So you know what we're talking about when you're looking at it.
This pays a portion of, most of it's paid by the rail trail committee.
Right. I know that-
Mowing and.
Right.
But in fairness, when that was created, that was they said they would, you know, and I know as time goes on,
It's a lot.
volunteers,
Right. I mean, they have a
volunteers
great
come and go, and you don't always get as many in them.
Or it's always the same volunteers.
Right.
You know, and it's just a matter of time till you.
At a year older for most of them.
So, you know, that is something we do definitely need to look at, but obviously we decided not to
This
look
isn't
at
the
that
year.
this year.
Right. Okay, I think that concludes section 1. According to the agenda, we're moving on to section 8, which is a...
I'll make a motion to approve section 1.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve section 1 of the budget, general government. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
Sorry.
We could have 4 votes.
One abstention.
I have to go to the bathroom, but don't stop talking. I can't stay too much longer.
Yeah, I think these are fast.
Yeah, so I want you to keep going.
Okay, we're moving on to section 8, employee benefits. I don't know if the mayor or the finance director have any comments on it. I think it's probably fairly straightforward, but we'll go through it line by line, starting with page 1, which is,
Contributory retirement.
or I guess it's not page 1, it'd be page, yes, the contributory retirement. I would assume this is pretty well set. I mean, there's not...
Yep, this is our assessment,
Right.
this is what we pay.
This is
That's our bill.
Right.
That's our invoice.
Right.
Cut and dry.
Yep.
It's up 3%. And, now, do we have any, we don't have any, the employees are not ours, right? We do have board members, like, I think,
Okay, so the board, the board members for retirement are not part of this assessment. This is about
that's just
employees.
what you have to pay for their retirement, into their retirement.
And it's based on a schedule. Can't remember now. Is it what? I'm not sure. I'll have to look it up. But basically, you know, the state came in and said, you know, you're paying out more benefits than people put in, and that the interest can accumulate. So they do an evaluation every year. What's the balance of the retirement system? How many people do you have? What are they going to retire with? And how long do we expect them to live, basically? So they're like, oh, well, they're not all dying at 45 anymore. When we started this program, they're living to be 100. And so their retirement is lasting a lot longer. And so this is to, you know, to contribute to that, in theory, we should catch up and not have to contribute. And the investment of the balance of the account should be enough to sustain current employees coming in, and that's part of why they changed the structure of, you know, employee was hired, was it 2 years ago they changed it? To be there, they only do a 5-year look back instead of 3, and sort of.
And then they come in at higher percentages too.
Right.
They pay higher percentages toward their
retirement.
right.
So, will it go away permanently? That's the plan.
Now,
We had to extend it several years ago when the market crashed and things didn't go the way people projected.
when I look at the school employees, that does not include the teachers, right? The teachers are in a
Right.
separate retirement. So these are just the school employees such as, well, I guess we don't have cafeteria anymore. so-
Right.
He's on the next page. Yeah.
Custodians, administration.
I'm still on the page.
Still on the page.
That's all right.
Well, it's just, this just is
all
the
retirement. It's all
the
retirement.
summary of what goes what way.
Yeah, so that's
The custodians,
The administrative
right,
offices.
and clerical, whatever.
Right.
But not the teachers.
Right, non-teachers.
Gotcha.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
So, and the only other group that's in our retirement system is the Easthampton Housing Authority. We see in the actuarial study, they're on there, but they're billed separately for their employees.
But we don't pay.
Okay. Anything on contributory retirement? I think there's plenty. Workman's compensation.
You can see we dropped that one a little bit. That's
Yeah.
very
nice.
hopeful. That's very hopeful. But we've also, we switched carriers. This will probably be year 2, and we are able to get different types of credits and dividends and things like that. So we're really hoping that that number will work for us.
Moving on to Medicare tax.
Medicare tax is a payroll tax.
Percentage of what the people make.
What people make, and I bumped it up a little bit because we have a whole bunch of increases due to contracts that we're going to be assuming in the next year. So I think that's more than enough, but I don't know. I'm a little tight this year. Crossing my fingers because it also you don't know things like outside detail and overtime and all that sort of fluctuates is all part of that tax, and you never really know for sure.
I think Councilor Winnie has a question for you.
Well, I know our biggest employer is the school, so what did they bump their salaries, or they bumped up their steps, or what,
Well, they asked for $1.3 million.
Yeah. Well, I know what they asked for, but I'm talking about their true operating budget. Do you know if have they settled their contracts with their teacher union?
They have not. We had negotiations last night. They have not.
Okay. So
And they're a year out of contract, by the way.
They're a year out of
Yes, they are. They're a year out of contract. Theirs doesn't start July 1st. This June 30th will be 1 year out of contract. So they're now talking about a 4-year contract.
Just to Melissa, to clarify, this 150,000 or 158,000 that's a set percentage of what teachers are making now that based on their current salary, you're just adding 8,000 on a possible projection, correct?
Well, I don't know, I mean, because some of their
It's like-
salary is paid from grants, I don't see it all until it happens. I just plug the number. When we go to do net school spending and all that, we have to use the actual, and we do have a separate line for their payroll versus ours. So it may be that one's high and ours is low, but they've been increasing pretty steadily, and I think I just popped it in.
Right. But what I'm saying is the federal government sets how much comes out of
Yeah.
everyone's paycheck. It's
Right.
1.35
Correct.
or 25.
It's
right?
1.4,
But it's a
it's
percentage
2
of
point.
salary.
it's-
Percentage of salary, so
She's
that's,
trying to
you're
guess.
stuck, and she's trying to guess what
Right,
the.
it's 2.9%, half of which is paid by the
Them.
employee and 1.45 paid by the employer.
32B.
That's insurances?
Yep, and we're still, this year we're not, it's usually just people coming on and off and estimating who will,
This
but,
is health and other insurances?
Health
um,
insurance,
to be is health, right?
It's all health. right?
Yes, and that's, we didn't have an increase this year in our
Amazing.
premiums, so.
When do they come in with that notice of what the increase will be? Is that usually,
We would know for July 1st.
they would tell you
They-
like now?
Yes.
Because it's July
They meet-
1st when they renew
Their board meets regularly, and they set their
several
rates.
months ago.
Yeah,
The
we
Hampshire
knew.
Trust tells you well
we
before your
knew
budget.
maybe February, we knew early that, that they were not anticipating any increases in our premium,
That's amazing.
which is
Well, I
good
think-
for not only the city, but also the employees.
Right. I mean, I think they
And
did,
no change, and obviously the plan doesn't change either, so it's been,
when we had the things on insurance, I did think they did sort of say they wouldn't be increasing for at least a couple of years. I mean, that was their pledge. So far, it looks like they're keeping to their pledge.
I don't know how they're doing it.
Okay, I may be confused. We're talking about no increases in premium,
yes.
no increase in...
In health
This is
insurance.
health
Health
insurance,
I'm looking
right.
at the 32B line.
Right.
I'm looking at a 12% increase in the line.
That's retiree share.
Where are
because Second
No,
line.
Retirees.
He's talking retirees.
Yeah, they,
11.9.
Yeah,
Is that because there's
11.9,
more
11.9%.
There's more retirees from this year to last?
12% more?
yeah, what they do in the
There's
office
100
is
and something retirees, isn't
they
there?
take what people are actually on. Well, if you look at the actual for 2013,
It's
like that was
520.
actually spent, it's, you know what I mean, it's less than what they were budgeted for 2014. And what they do is they take the actual enrollment right now, and then they put it out for 12 months. And those are the numbers that they gave me. And then we talked about some stuff, and they said, oh, I think we can cut this one and that one. But it's a guess. I mean, people come on all the time, so.
Retirees.
And people switch too. People, I had family plan, whatever, so, in the regular, not the retirees plan, I had other plans.
But the bottom line is our total healthcare cost for the city actually
It's down.
is down to
Well,
0.5%.
It's up from prior year actuals,
Right.
but it's down from last year's request.
Right.
Because we don't think that we'll spend that much, is
That
what.
much. What you're saying, that's what you're... Okay. Anything else on health?
Down from last year's approval, right?
Right, the
You approved that,
4,023,000
right.
that they did last year, they don't even think they'll spend that by the June 30th this year.
Right.
It's amazing.
It's fantastic.
Gatsby, you'll have to explain this, Melissa. Again, right.
I'm never gonna.
I know this is
I get it.
that city accounting system that, for
This is
the...
the study
Government
for
account standards.
retiree health insurance benefit, and the fact that all retirees, that's an appropriation made annually, the one you commented on, that we have no set aside for the fact that if we were to shut down tomorrow, just like the other retirement assessment, that we have no ability to pay that should the general fund not appropriate it for it annually. There's no set aside or trust fund set up for that. And we are required by law now to study and provide what the true liability is, even if we're not funding it. They'll make us do that soon.
They'll make us,
Fund it.
Right, even if we're not funding it now, they'll order it from.
Right,
Right.
that will happen eventually.
Yeah.
But we have to, at a minimum, provide an actuarial study that recognizes the amount of money that we have
Unfunded.
unfunded.
It's a scary thing.
It's a pay-as-we-go system
Oh,
now.
I understand the system, I understand the pay-as-we-go. I'm just wondering about the logic of taking $8,500. You could say, well, why don't we take $8,500 and at least throw it into the fund?
Because
And then
actuaries
tell me,
don't work for free.
I know.
It's a requirement.
Well, if
How many
you
years
have
have
to
they
do the
been?
study, then you have, what I'm
Right.
saying is.
It's a mandatory study, too.
Right, it's a
4
mandatory
years.
study. It's too bad you have to do
Right.
the study, put the money toward the study, you can't just throw it.
Right.
Was this,
Well, if you
Things
want to
that-
know how
I
many
know you have
laws
to do this study.
laws
Right.
have been written so that we do
Well, they didn't use,
studies.
well, I was just gonna say, it's forcing you to do the study, because before there were no studies, so now that's.
Well, then you had no clue that you were so far behind, right?
Well, I think they did.
Yeah.
the
That's
study
why
in
they
13 was
mandated the
actually
studies.
more? I mean, is that?
Yes, Risa went out and got more quotes and.
So we actually got again, we got
Right.
a better figure on the study, but
Right.
not.
Yeah.
Anything else, gentlemen? Liability insurance.
Okay, that would be me. That one, as you can
I
see,
mean, we have to really make sure you're,
the liability is, you know,
We have to
all the
increase it since
claims
you're
and
the
the
mayor.
fleets and anything to do with liability is out of my office. And it's figured in, they estimated to be a 5% increase. That's a bill that we usually do really, really well with, because if you finagle and I pay the whole entire bill for the city, usually get a really good discount if I pay it within the 30 days. So I always pay it, and then I collect the money from everybody else, the retirement department, the school department, the school board. But it's, to me, it's such a sizable savings that I usually squeak through with that. The other thing that supplements that budget is I've done the Maya credits for many years, which earns us a lot of money off our bill. And by now having our two, you know, with workers' comp and liability together, so that's also has been a savings. And I just lost my train of thought. Having the two of them together has also been a savings. Oh yes, and we're also eligible for different dividends and stipends, which they share to their constituents, whatever. The other thing in liability, like you'll notice that it had gone up one year, that was for the high school. You know, all our buildings are on that and our assets are on there also. So that was figured in, you know, when you notice things are adjusted and changed, that's for it. But it also, what's in the liability is any of our, like the lawsuits are also out of my office, so any of our deductibles, you know, some of them are sizable, you know, $10,000 is a typical lawsuit deductible. So our $2,500 sewer backups. So every once in a while, I'll get hit with our deductibles. They don't have you pay the deductible until the legal matter is settled. So sometimes it could be 3 years. You know, it could be an MCAT case, whatever. Obviously, sewer backups are settled quicker than that. But any of the legal matters take time. So every once in a while, I'll just get slammed with a 10 grand deductible. So that's what's in there.
So were you saying the MIA is both paying the workers' comp and the liability through
We
them?
use
Through the-
Maya now for both. Before it was just liability.
Right, just liability and the workers' comp was out of a private firm.
Workers' comp was with a different firm.
Right, right.
So now they're both together. Our underwriter went under, and so we were, exactly.
under?
So we were able to, you know, get our workers' comp in through, luckily, get our workers' comp through Maya.
Joy has a thought.
So are you sending the employees to the Maya trainings for the credits?
Oh, you better believe it. 1% here, 1% there, 3% here,
Okay.
anything and everything. Yep.
good idea to maintain the reserve fund at 100.
Okay. Any
Glad
questions?
you liked it.
Well, I think it's wise. You do a lot of unfortunately educated guesses in the budget, so.
Unemployment comp?
So unemployment is paid from a trust that we have set up for unemployment bills, but we need to fund it every year based on the prior year's payments and, what we think we need to get through the next year. Last couple of years, it was funded around 35,000, but we've been using it, so we put in 50 to bring our trust balance enough to make sure that we can get through the next year.
No, I know the mayor, you don't predict any layoffs on the city side, and I know we're going to do the school part later, but if there's school layoffs, is that something that we have to pick up out of the city? Is that, or do they have their own? Nope.
Nope.
That's
Oh,
ours.
Yep,
We
it comes
leave
right
it
out
all.
of there.
Yeah, it's all
One fund.
part of that, but then when the trust fund pays it, it is separated, so we can track which is which, but it is not,
Track but paid by the city.
right.
Not the school, from the school budget.
No,
Well, we pay a lot of benefits.
All benefits are paid that way.
yep.
All benefits are paid by the city. We
We
pay
pay all
their
the health
health
benefits out of the
insurance,
city side.
pay everything.
We track
So it's
it.
not calculated in terms of how much we spend toward the
Well,
school.
it is
In terms of the calculations,
It is,
when you,
it
to meet your
Some
minimum.
of it
is-
after under non-net.
No,
Yeah.
non-net is not calculated toward the school minimums, is what you're asking.
That's what I'm
Right.
asking.
No.
yes.
No.
But if you want to know what the taxpayers are paying, it's a lot more than just the money.
Just the money that's going into the school budget, right?
That's why at the end of the year, you might see 67, 69% of expended revenues versus at the beginning of the year during the budget, it might be, 49 to 50%.
But that's because they're not
what
counting the
happens.
benefits.
Right. All that non-net at the end of the year.
well, then there's the school spending report, it reports net school spending, which, some of these benefits are included in that, and some are not. But
Right.
we report to you all both. Just,
And also,
Because
it's probably,
What the cost of doing schools is.
Right, right.
and going back to Dan, what you asked for about layoffs is probably a good time to bring up. No, we're not having any layoffs. As you well know, we're not bringing any employees back that have, that have been gone for many years, like the police, fire, DPW. They're still down at least three men in every department. But we're also, the pay plan people did not have their hours reinstated yet either.
Right.
So I think we're just very, very, very fortunate to scrimp through this and not to prevent any layoffs. Because as you can see, what's the typical calculation? We need to lay off 3 people to make it worthwhile because of paying the unemployment.
Benefit on
right, so,
benefits,
yeah,
so-
for every 2, you gotta lay off a third in order to
It's
make
devastating.
to recognize
Right.
the
But
cut
the
of 2
saving.
salaries, you need to lay off a third because of what you're gonna pay in.
So it's devastating to our workforce to do it that way, to do it that way. But that's the only way you get a savings, so maybe next year.
And I think that might conclude section 8.
I move that we approve employee benefits.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve section 8 of the budget, employee benefits. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Section 9, community preservation.
The first page is the outline of what we're going to go through, so we'll flip over to the next page. And maybe, Melissa, you could explain a little. This looks like what has been expended and what has been, what is still in the pipeline to be expended. And
Right, so budget is everything that's been approved and sitting in the CPA to be expended. Actuals is what was actually expended in those individual line items. I believe the issue with Lower Mill Pond is that something got charged to that shouldn't have, and then we did a journal entry for it later to make it go to 0, but it's just weird that it's negative like that, but it was fixed. So, I can't remember, I made Valerie explain it to me at one point, but I think that something hit there that wasn't in 13, and then she fixed it in 14. But then what we're really appropriating here is the 10% to set aside into each of the 3 categories: housing, open space, and historical, and then
that's the 52 that
Right.
you got, yeah.
and 9,000 for the administrative expense, which is some supplies, but I believe most of it is for Jamie's time.
Right. And I will, just as a member of the committee, say Jamie does a great job on that. He does a lot of work.
Yeah.
She definitely does.
Yeah, and she does a lot of work during the day too on follow-up as the money gets expended, which is,
Is she hourly on this?
She is.
This
So
is an
she's-
hourly salary.
She's five hours CPA a week, and the 17 is the remaining 17 hours.
She's under your office.
She's in my office, she's the assistant planner.
But does a lot of research on projects. If you ask her, she always comes
Right,
back. and
you know, we never,
Very thorough.
years ago, we didn't have this budgeted. This is great.
Right, this is
It
We
is
didn't
great.
budget. We didn't budget for administration, and it has to be administered.
Right.
And she's been spending a lot of
Well,
time.
I think the
trying-
law changed and allowed us to do it.
No, you're
No,
always
it was
allowed.
allowed.
It always was allowed, we just never did it. Stuart never took the money? Wow.
But she's been spending a lot of time trying to clean up old projects like the clock tower on the Congregational Church, which is funding.
Some of the
that's
ones that have been sitting there and no one's used
for,
it.
right, and not
She's a very
using.
good
Well, she's doing work, she should get paid, and we might as well pay it out of the budget that she's working for.
Right.
But as the workload increased,
Amazed at my
as you
logic
started,
sometimes.
the projects, and more and more projects came into effect, more things had to be
Well, you have
handled,
to
the
handle
more
it.
sense it made to use an administrative line for those services.
And we've tried
As
to-
opposed to originally, well, okay, you're going to take money and not really administer it.
And we're now trying to set a process, creating, contracts with, if a private entity receives money, there's a signed agreement, trying to get some formality to the process so that they can be accountable, they will have quarterly reports. I mean, it's a grant. It's a grant that the city is giving an entity, and so they should be reporting, like, I have to report for my grant.
So if
on
you
some
give
level,
money
know?
to, well, I guess the ball fields would be under the Park Association. but-
Like Riverside windows.
Right, if you gave money to
Or the
Riverside,
Congregational Church.
that contractor has to report back to you about how they spent the money, don't they?
not the contractor, the
But
recipient.
The recipient, but from the contractor to the recipient.
Right, so.
You know
in
what's
the-
been spent.
In the case of
Riverside.
Riverside, we got progress reports.
That's what I mean. And that
Right.
never happened before?
No, there was no formal process for that. So that's
Wow.
why there was some outstanding, like the Congregational
Some of
Church
the old-
clock tower, the clock there, I don't know when that was
The initial,
appropriated. The
right.
initial appropriation was, what, 5,
It was
6, 7
several
years
years
ago,
ago.
something
And
like
it took
that.
forever to get fixed.
And now we've just got invoices this week for
Right, 'cause they
fixing
finally
it,
got it.
because Jamie was on the case and she bugged them over and over and over again to make sure that it was getting done. So it's important to have that staff.
Well, yeah,
Very.
it's taxpayer money.
Right, exactly.
Melissa, can you kind of explain the grand totals if you?
Yep, and so the reserve fund, that's an estimated of, we're gonna estimate that our actual revenues are around 445,000 this year. That is extremely conservative. However, we're doing that because you just never know what your state match is gonna be. We do this though, so that, so that when we go to set the recap, we don't have this huge number sitting out there saying, well, we really didn't plan to get more than 10%. You know what I mean? Because we're setting aside 10%, and so when we balance the recap in the past, we'd always have to write a letter saying, oh, the CPA didn't appropriate the total amount of their funds that they assessed this year and blah, blah, blah. So instead of doing that, we just say, oh, we estimated 280,000 and, $445,000 in revenue. And we put that on the recap as a real number. Now, if that turns out to be 600,000 because our match from the state is really great, then we just have a revenue surplus. But, we need to make a reasonable estimate as to what we anticipate to receive. And I believe we did the 52 based on expecting that we've always gotten good money from the state, so that we want to set aside enough to make the 10%, but kept the other reserve low, because you don't want to put yourself in the situation where you've assumed you're going to get money and then you have a revenue deficit. So it's a accounting thing that helps us set the tax rate with one less explanation to our state auditors.
Cleaner.
Yeah.
So
And then
this-
all these other things are just the open projects, and what's in place and when we've spent them and.
So like when we go back up to, we'll just take the housing, there's like Parsons, the 200's been appropriated, but hasn't been, we haven't actually turned that money over to Parsons or Cottage
Correct.
Street. Say that's just sitting, but
Well,
it's set aside
It's
from the.
encumbered, sort of.
Right. so-
Correct.
right.
And I
So it's-
believe that since these were, Cottage Street has been spent,
Okay, they did take theirs.
but in 14, but I don't print the actual because it's a moving target when I'm printing this month before you guys see it. So the 200 for cottage has been spent. You can see that they're doing work over here. And then we anticipate that Parsons will be spent.
Once they start
in this fiscal year.
in this.
Yep.
In this fiscal year, next couple weeks, hopefully.
Anything else on CPA?
No, I think we're done. I'll
JP?
move to approve.
Anything else before, second? Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve Section 9 CPA. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Before we adjourn, does anybody have any questions for all these experts before they get up on anything? Joy?
Did you say the copy was still on?
Make a motion to adjourn?
No move.
Okay.
Don't run out of have one thing for you that I
Okay,
just
thank
wanted
you.
to do.
Yeah.
You need all of us?
Yeah.
We adjourned.
Only you.
Shut this off.
Gotta go.